Gary here. Welcome to Book Mob episode 33. Now, today I'm going to be talking about Ken Follett's KingsBridge Series, which I've just finished after reading the final one, The Armour of Light. The chronological order of Follett's KingsBridge Series is starting with The Evening and the Morning, The Pillars of the Earth, World Without End, A Column of Fire, and the most recent, published in 2023, The Armour of Light. Now, when you take on a series, generally you like to start at number one and work your way through. Now, for argument's sake, excuse me, Ken Follett released The Pillars of the Earth as number one, and then that followed on with World Without End, and finally A Column of Fire. The Armour of Light has just been added, and in 2020 he released The Evening and the Morning, which is a prequel to The Pillars of the Earth. So basically you've got 5 books, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each one, I want to be able to stress that each book from the series is easily a standalone book. You don't need to read the entire series. I mean, there are themes and ideas that run through all 5. However, like the way I read them, I read this first, followed by number 1, and then I read the 5th novel, and then I read World Without End and Column of Fire. So I went back and forward, forward, back. And I had no trouble, there's no need, because each book in itself encapsulates a period of English history, and in each and every book you have the very same type of characters. You have evil villains, you have young people who grow up to become great people, people from humble beginnings who overcome religious oppression, who become financial suffering. So every character in every epoch is covered equally in each individual book. Now, for me, that is one reason not to read the entire series as an ongoing series. I mean, if you look at some of there's no ongoing characters. The only character that is ongoing throughout the KingsBridge series is KingsBridge itself. And there are occasional references to ancestors and to people who came before and who built the cathedral and who did this. So, but you don't it's not vital that you know that information as you read each book. And I suppose that Ken Follett, as a writer, I mean, he basically is writing a standalone novel, and he's just set it in one area, one place in Britain. And to be fair, the novels are similar in their narrative in what happens. There's a lot of sort of bawdy kind of carry-on type sex. So in each book there's forbidden sex, characters getting together who shouldn't get together. There's in each book he will kill one of the characters that you are, that's a surprise, you didn't think that was going to happen. And I'm not giving anything away because the books themselves tell a story about capitalism, about religious oppression, about ignorance, and the characters play their roles so well. Like the evil protagonists and antagonists, because the evil characters, sometimes you go, well, that's the way people in power behave. They're not doing it because they're inherently evil. They're doing it because that's just the way they do business. So there's a lot of crime. There's a lot of misuse of justice. There is a lot of justice. And each story is fulfilling and immersive. I mean, you have to, it's a disciplined read for each. As you can see, they're pretty chunky. So you've really got to give yourself a full concentrated effort to stay on top of the story, to enjoy the characters, to see where they go, to know who came from who and where they're going, because there's a plethora of incidents and people who live in these books. And each of them is someone that you get to know whilst you're reading the book. And that's a great pleasure. It's one of the great pleasures of reading, is that it's such a intellectual exercise that you create in your own head the stories that you're reading. You make the pictures. And I guess when you get to the end of each book, the Follett, the writer, has tied up a loose end. The important thing is you do not need to read, it's not required reading from 1 to 5. Each of these great books and great stories can be read as a standalone, and you'll just get as much out of it as you would as if you did commit yourself to reading the 5 books. Now, there's a lot of time required to get through these books, but I highly recommend them. Thinking of my favorite of the 5, I would have to say A Column of Fire is the most sort of grotesque, the most in-depth, the most almost, the one that tackles reality of the religious wars in Europe and in the 16th century, and between the Protestants and the Catholics and the different families so it's like the civil wars that have been brought about through the change in religion. Henry VIII raided the abbeys and took land away from the church, and obviously Spain and France were strongly Catholic countries, and so that set up a whole generation or multiple generations of Europeans who didn't stop stabbing and killing each other. And I think The Column of Fire, for me, is the most sort of tactile and the most sort of intense book of the lot. Well, the book that I find most sensitive and enjoyable and pleasantly enjoyable is The Evening and the Morning. It's got Viking raids and rape and pillage and all that, but it's a nice story. It is a kind of a fairy tale in one way, but it also carries through for the entire narrative, and I couldn't put it down. And obviously, I'm a big reader. So when I recommend books to people, I'm always thinking to myself, all right, they don't read like you do. They've got lives. So what I'm saying to you is all of these books are fantastic to read. The only thing that will... one of the major ways to access the pleasure and enjoyment of reading books is to be disciplined in your reading. It doesn't take much. Even if you just give yourself 15 to 20 pages a night or a day, that will help you stay on top of the story, remember the characters, remember the incidents, and you will then, by the time you finish the book, you will feel that you've accomplished something, that your mind will go, oh, thanks, that was a refreshing break from billions of images flying through your brain every second. So I'm always a fan of reading, as you know, but if you don't read and you want to take on a small, enjoyable challenge, I think Ken Follett's series is a perfect gateway to more intense and more realistic historical books, because you will find interest. You will go, because he does use history as a backdrop. The characters are made up, and in some cases he does use real people in the time. But essentially they're fictionalized accounts of people, and I'm not sure how in-depth Follett went in his research as to how people behaved and how they lived and how they spoke and how they performed their duties, because there's a lot of contemporary modes of living. So take your time, pick any one of the 5, and I mean, for pure joy, I would pick the first one, The Evening and the Morning, because it's a good read, and for a real intense read and learning about the war of the religious wars of the 16th century, this one will be certainly one that you'll get your teeth stuck into. All right, thanks for tuning in if you're still here. Just a quick note, I'm reading Salman Rushdie's The Satanic Verses, which is a very, very difficult but enjoyable read. and I'm also reading another Dean Koontz, Soul Survivor, which is actually so far for me turning out to be one of his best, most exciting stories. It's really well written and it's gripping. Yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll be back with another episode soon. And please, if you feel like it, like and subscribe, and if also leave comments or maybe leave suggestions of what books you'd like me to talk about. And other than that, I'll see you in the library. Bye.